weiß Bescheid.
Entiendo.
Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And it is your host, Mr. Karan Rose. Listen, I can't express enough gratitude for you guys tuning in. I can't believe we are going into September. Where is the time going? My goodness. I'm sitting here and I'm just gearing up for this episode, and you know, I'm looking at the calendar and I'm seeing August 30th, and I'm just like, wow, this time is flying. It feels like, I mean, even though we are still in the middle of this pandemic, it feels like the time is absolutely flying. My goodness. But nonetheless, happy for all of you to be tuning in to the program. Today's episode is 7 tips to help build your discoverability. And right now, building and navigating through this digital age. Remember, we are in this pandemic. We're still trying to reduce as much in-person contact as possible. If you are tuning in from the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean countries still have a lot of restrictions. Certain types of businesses are closed. Some islands have gone back into lockdown. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, we're still on curfew. There are businesses that are still closed and not allowed to operate. So everybody, for the most part, is going to benefit from being online, taking their business digital. However, we in the Caribbean are accustomed to brick and mortar. That is our jam. That is what we've known from the dawn of time. We know that you want to get your business in a particular area that has, parking or has a lot of foot traffic, and you can put up your banners, you could send out your flyers, and people are going to walk by. Or you try to position yourself close to an essential service like a grocery, because you know that people have to come to these places, and when they're going by, they're going to see you. And the big challenge for Caribbean businesses is not just going online, because we have a variety of platforms that allow you to build your websites or send out digital invoices or use pay links in order to get these transactions done online. One of the biggest challenges for business is how to rethink and revisit how they go about getting traffic. Because again, the majority of businesses in the Caribbean have benefited from just understanding the layout of how brick and mortar works. They understand that to the T, right? But it's not the same in the digital age. You can't put your website next to a grocery store online and get traffic. You really have to fend for yourself. Your brand has to be discoverable. And I want to dive into 7 tips or 7 strategies for your brand to be discoverable. All right. Now, there is a wide variety of ways. And I think this episode alone on this topic of discoverability, this topic, I should say, this might end up having 3 or 4 different parts to it, because there are so many ways to be discoverable. And because the platforms are changing all the time, or new platforms are coming out, New strategies are being evolved. Again, this is always going to be an ongoing conversation. How can you get your business to be found online? How do you increase the chances of your ideal customers or clients discovering you online? And this is something that every single business owner needs to have a handle on. You either need to be an expert in it yourself, or right now, you better go and get some best friends who understand discoverability in the digital age. So without further ado, let's get this episode started. Number 1, the first tip I want to give you in your quest for discoverability is to build a website and learn SEO, aka search engine optimization. All sales now start with a Google search. Sales starts with a Google search. Even if you intend to visit the store in person, the sale typically still starts with a Google search. All right. So if I'm looking for black Nike cross trainers, right? If I'm looking for Nike cross trainers, I might not know of a store offhand that might particularly want the specific type of shoe that I'm looking for, right? Now, we would know, obviously, we're going to know shoe stores, right? But if I'm looking for a particular shoe, I'm just going to jump on Google and I'm going to type in, Nike Huaraches or Nike cross trainers. And I typically want to see what comes up. I want to do a Google search and see what comes up. Now, once I do that Google search, what's going to happen is I'm going to be presented with the search engine results page. It's going to give me a lengthy list of links to the link to that specific shoe that I'm looking for. And you're typically going to see things like Amazon. Amazon's usually first on that list for products, right? If a brand or if a business has that particular shoe and they have a website and they have done their SEO properly, they should be showing up on that first page for that particular shoe. That way you can click on the link, check it out, make sure it's the one that you want, and then either A, you're going to add to cart, or if you want to pick it up in person, you're then going to call the store and be like, hey, I'm just confirming if you have this black cross trainer. This is the size. Check. Okay, cool. What's your closest location? Or you might not even ask, because you know that, again, if that business is online and they have their map or a link to the map or their address, you could put that into your GPS and go, or you just ask them to confirm. And then you make your way down there to go pick up the shoe. All right. But when you do not show up on that first page, okay, so even if I know of a variety of shoe stores that I could go to, if I'm looking for a particular shoe, it starts with the Google search. And typically whoever shows up on that search results page usually gets the phone call. Or at least I go to their website. And if they have the option, especially now in these pandemic times, if you have the option for me to add to cart, purchase, and then you deliver, then I'm not even calling. And you guys know what I'm talking about. When is the last time you called Amazon? I'm sure probably 95% of you don't even know how to even begin to call Amazon because you've never done it. But if the brand has the exact shoe that we're looking for, then we add to cart, pay for it online, and have it delivered. All right? So, tip number 1, getting your website and learning SEO is the number one. Now, usually when I have these lists, I usually have it in no particular order. But usually that first point that I drive home is usually like, this is like the staple. This is the most important thing you need to do right now, especially when it comes to discoverability. Have your website, learn SEO, or work with an SEO specialist that can optimize your content, optimize your products. And no, folks, because there are some businesses that think that SEO is a one-time thing. No, SEO is a daily practice. It is not a magic button you press and boop, your platform or your products are SEO optimized. That's not how it works. This is a ongoing thing. So you either need to outsource this to a reliable person who can come in, and anytime you guys have a new product, they optimize it, or at the end of every month, they're going back and making sure that your products, your web pages, your content, everything is properly optimized so that it can be found on the search engines. All right. SEO is really the practice of being discoverable on the search engines. And because the search engines are constantly changing, your optimization has to be aligned with the constant changes of each of the search engines. So it is not a one-time thing. There's many businesses that I've spoken to, and they're like, we got our website optimized. Like once? Only one time? Yeah. Like, no, this is a consistent thing, right? This is a constant thing. So it's not a one-time fix. This is an ongoing thing when it comes to SEO optimization. The other thing is that when you have your website, also your images are also searchable. They are also indexable by the search engine. So if we want to do, let's just say I don't know the name of the shoe, right? I can then type in Nike cross trainers, and I could go to the images section, and I could search for the shoe that I'm looking for by the images. But if you guys notice, when you click on the images, what does it do? It links back to a website. So your images are also need to be optimized for the search engine as well. And again, a big change that happened over the last couple of days, and again, this is just a couple of days old, a major change that has happened with Google is pushing for more searches via images. So if you have an Android phone and you have the Google search widget on your front pages, what you would have noticed is they have recently included the Google Lens option right in the search bar on your homepage. So now what you could do is you could either type in a query. So I could either type in Nike black cross trainers and search through, the websites that show up for it. Or if I have somebody that, has the shoe that I want and I want to find out where I can get it, or, if you have somebody that already has a shoe, we'll go with that example, and you want to see if anybody locally or within your country has that shoe for sale, what you can now do is go to your front page where the Google search bar is, and you can tap on the Google Lens icon, and then it's going to scan the item in question. It could be anything, right? It could be the shoe, man, it could be mugs. You could even scan plants and insects and get information on it, right? But you can scan that shoe, and it is then going to show you all of the results for that particular shoe right in your Google search. So it's going to bring up all of those images of that particular shoe. And then when you click on it, it's going to send you to a link or a link to a website where you could then either get information from that shoe or purchase that shoe. So your website, optimizing your product pages, your content pages, optimizing your images is critical in discoverability because the search engines are pushing hard to make search easier for your potential customers. Now, with that new addition to Google Lens right on the home screen, a click of a button, Google is telling you that, hey, we want to be able to allow people to search via images easier than ever before. And if your products are not showing up for image searches, again, you are losing out on business. And since Caribbean businesses typically don't run to websites because they don't understand what a website is anymore for 2021, these are things that they're not taking advantage of. But you need to be, because this is huge. This is how you are going to be found for your products. It's no longer about your brand name. People are searching for either products or solutions to their problems. And you need to know what people are looking for, what they're searching for, making sure that your stuff is optimized. That way, when somebody's performing a search, your content, your products, your images are showing up. That way, you could lead them back to your platform to complete the purchase for their products and then have it delivered to them. Number 2, the second tip I'm giving you guys to help you build your discoverability is to grow your Google My Business platform. Now, Google My Business does so many things, but the most important aspect of Google My Business is that it is the gateway for your business to have that business profile on the right-hand side of the Google search. So if you're on a desktop and you're Googling a business, what you're going to see is there's usually a business section that gives you the name of the business. It gives you their reviews. It's going to show you their location, their number, like some of the business information. And then you're going to see any pictures that they would have uploaded to the Google My Business platform. So Google My Business is your direct link to the business section on Google search. And then on mobile, it fits right into the actual feed condensed on the mobile view platform, right? Google My Business is also the controlling platform for Google Maps. So again, when you are searching for businesses on Google Maps, all of your business information, your pictures, your reviews shows up on Google Maps, and it is controlled by Google My Business. Google My Business is the leading tool for local searchability. Google My Business is the tool, it is the mechanism that you use for local searchability on the Google platform. All right. So you can put things like, before I go, I think I'm going to have to do an episode specifically on Google My Business because there is so much to it. There is a lot of features. There's a lot of strategies. And I think I'm going to have to do Google My Business, its own dedicated episode. But let me just quickly run through some of the features of Google My Business. So outside of putting in your business information, it gives you some really nice data. So when people are Googling your business and they're clicking on the call feature to call your business, Google My Business tracks that. So it's going to tell you things like which days you are getting the highest call volume. It's going to tell you which time periods of the day are you getting the highest call volume. Because Google, Big Brother, is tracking everybody's phones, it's also going to tell you the amount of times people have come to your location. It's going to show you what is the highest trafficked hours and traffic days from people coming in to your business. That's scary when you think about it. But again, as a business owner, that information is really good, right? It also shows you what areas people are coming to your business from. All right. What else? One of the things that I love using it for is, again, you can put content on Google search, right? So you could upload, think of it like Instagram for Google, right? Because you can put your pictures, you can put videos onto Google search and people can see that. And you do that from the Google My Business platform. You can do things like if you have events, you can put your events into the event section of Google My Business, and that's going to show up as an event. You can also list all of your products onto Google My Business, and then people can see that on the Google search directly, read the caption, see the images for the products, and then there's a link to go and make that purchase, so you guys can add to that as well. Also, Google My Business connects to a wide variety of scheduling platforms. So you can even get a scheduling button right on the Google search button so people can book appointments directly with you from Google search. So again, that's just a little taste of what Google My Business does. It is something that, oh boy, the majority of businesses across the Caribbean, I have met maybe only a handful of businesses that have even registered for the platform. And I almost, of the businesses that I know that have registered it, maybe one or two people actually use it. But they don't understand that, again, Google My Business, that is the tool, that is the platform, that is the key to local searchability in your country on Google. And because it is so versatile and you could do so much with the platform, it needs to be a part of your strategy. That way you can get more people finding your business, your products, your events. Because again, the more people that can find you is the more opportunities you get to gain new clients or to increase your sales. Number 3, the third tip to help you build your discoverability is to start a podcast. I know that's probably music to some people's ears. Like, I really have been thinking about a podcast. And others are like, nah, man, don't even put that on the list. A podcast? I hate to hear my voice. I don't want to do a podcast. But again, this is a great tip, because when you start a podcast, podcasts have their own discoverability. They have their own algorithms that can happen. You can optimize podcasts as well so that they can be found via the search engines. And on top of that, there is a wide variety of podcast directories, and each of those podcast directories are constantly promoting podcasts as well that are doing well. And again, they're trying to keep people on their podcast platform, right? So when you think about things like Apple Podcasts is constantly recommending podcasts for you to listen to. Google Podcasts actually has their own dedicated section on the Google search engine results page. So you guys that have a podcast and you have enrolled your podcast to Google Podcasts, once you guys have titled your podcast correctly and you've done your descriptions properly, those things are indexable by Google. So you could type in a particular question or query, and Google recommend to listen to this podcast or this podcast episode. Again, that tremendously helps with your brand, your business being discoverable. And then you could take it a step further, right? So this is something that I do. So I'm constantly mix and matching my different types of content mediums. So when I do video, when I do podcasts, I don't just leave it on one platform. So this Digipreneur podcast, right? Now, I have enrolled this podcast on every single podcast directory known to man, right? You could find this podcast anywhere. And again, when we go through the stats, we can see all the different types of podcast players around the world that people are using to listen to this podcast, which could only happen if you, again, have enrolled your podcast in multiple directories. But one of the things that I do is I built my own Digipreneur FM website so that I could then embed the podcast episodes onto a website, and then I can optimize that website and optimize those podcast pages to increase the chances of the podcast being discoverable, right? So it works out because when I look at the top 2 sources that people are listening to the podcast on, number 1 is Apple Podcasts, and that makes the most sense. It's the largest podcast directory. Plus, Apple Podcast does an amazing job with their algorithms and recommending podcasts to people. So again, we get a lot of traffic. As a matter of fact, the most traffic we get is from Apple Podcasts, right? But they also do podcasts the best with their algorithms and promoting it and getting it in front of the right people who would enjoy that content. The second top source for me is Google Chrome. And what that means is that people are coming to the digipreneur.fm website and discovering the podcast from the website. And they're listening to it directly from Google Chrome. So again, if I did not build the Digipreneur FM website, if I wasn't, optimizing it for search, I would not have Google Chrome as the second largest source for the podcast, right? Google, having the website and optimizing it for search just increases the opportunities for my podcast to show up in search results. So when people are placing their Google queries and questions, a podcast episode and a write-up on Digipreneur FM website has the opportunity to show up. And then people can either, read the bit of the write-up. I also have it timestamped, so for key points, they'll be able to click on the timestamp and listen to that particular section. But that website also makes it easier for my podcast to be discovered. And it's helped tremendously in the growth of the podcast, getting seen in more countries, getting more downloads. And that's essentially what you want. So again, starting a podcast, enrolling your podcast in as many podcast directories as possible. It costs you nothing to enroll them in all. It just takes some time, submitting your podcast and getting it reviewed so that it can get entered into the various podcast directories. And that is a one-time thing. But when you do it, it increases the chances of your podcast becoming discoverable. Each podcast directory has their own algorithm, and they are constantly pushing your podcast and recommending it to people who might enjoy your content. And then if you can get that type of traffic from the podcast, remember, when you are putting in the descriptions, you can link to your website. You can link to other places that you want to bring your traffic to, all right? So again, more opportunities for your business and brand to be discoverable. And the more discoverable you are, you increase the chances of people coming to your platforms. And the more people that can come to your platforms, it increases the chances of opportunities for your brand or business and or sales through your platforms. Number 4, the fourth tip to help build your discoverability is focus on creating savable content. So I want to say it was a month, maybe 2 ago, there was a big announcement in the Instagram algorithms. They have started to focus on putting more emphasis on saves, number 1, and shares, number 2. And they have decreased the emphasis on likes and comments. Because really and truly, when someone sees it fit to save your content, that's the highest honor that you can get on social media because they want to reference it. They want to keep going back to it. If you've noticed, every single platform allows you to save the content, and then some of these platforms allow you to have different types of lists so that you can save that particular content to a particular list of yours so that you could reference it easier, all right? And shares, if your content is so valuable that people want to now share it with their community, again, that is a much higher badge of honor than somebody, putting in a like, just a quick double tap. And for the most part, even a comment, because let's face it, there's a lot of content out there that certain people or businesses might not be able to comment on based on their affiliations. But what do? It still doesn't stop them from sharing it or saving it because either they're doing their own competitive research and it's a key piece of content that they need to break down, they need to share with their team, but they might not be able to comment. So even comments can be a bit of a sticky thing because For one, there's a lot of bots that are dropping comments, and you have to keep deleting these comments on. But even some of the comments you get is fluff comments. Great job, a one emoji, even the comments again is not really always a great measure of, this is a great piece of content. And then the likes is the easiest thing that you can do. So I love the change in the algorithm to focus on more, or placing more emphasis on content that gets saved and content that gets shared. And savable content looks completely different than content that you just post that lacks substance. The highest form of content that gets saved is typically how-to content. How-to content is the number one form of content that typically gets saved, right? And that how-to content could be anything. It could be how to make a carrot cake. It could be how to put oil or how to change the oil in your car. But how-to content is the number one form of savable content. And again, it makes sense because these are things that people want to reference later on and keep coming back to throughout their day or throughout their journey of entrepreneurship or whatever they're looking to do, right? But you want to focus on savable content. And what you guys can do is definitely jump on Google and type into Google, what makes great savable content. And you guys will start to realize that content that gets saved looks and feels a bit differently than content that just gets liked. And if you can learn how to create more savable content, the better off you're going to get. You're going to get a bigger push from the algorithms, number one, and that's also going to increase your chances of discoverability because the content that's getting more saves has a higher chance of being placed onto the explore pages on some of these platforms, and the algorithm is going to give you a push and show your content to more of the people that are actually following you as well. So focus on creating savable content. For me, a lot of my content I've realized over the past couple of months, I get more saves than I do likes, and I definitely get more saves than I do comments. So when I see a post that has 300 saves, but 100 likes and 5 comments, and maybe, it has 50 to 60 shares or whatever, it's always interesting. But again, I see the difference in the type of content that I create that gets saved a lot more. When I produce more how-to content, when I produce content that showcases data for a specific niche, when I'm giving out more tip-based content, that content gets shared a heck of a lot more than it does get likes or than it does get comments. When I post a picture of myself randomly, I could be sipping something strong on the beach. I could post a picture like that, and obviously no one's going to save it, no one's going to share it. However, that picture might get 300 likes and, 50 comments of people saying, "Oh my God, wish I was there. Oh my God, what's in your cup? Oh my God, sunset is so beautiful." But you get the idea and the difference of what would look like, what savable content would look like, even shareable content. Savable and shareable content looks and feels completely different than content that just gets likes and comments. Number 5. Folks, this is going to be another one that gets some cringes from some people. I can already feel the cringe when you hear this next tip. Live events, live streaming and live events is the 5th tip that we're giving you to help build your discoverability. Now, why live events or live streaming? When you do live events and you do it on platforms that allow you to schedule in advance, the algorithm then pushes those events out. Now, this is for pretty much every other platform except for Instagram, right? Instagram is very limited when it comes to live streaming. It's the easiest to go live on. It's the easiest to, bring guests on. But in terms of discoverability and in terms of getting the real pushes that you want, especially for business owners, Instagram Live is just a limited way of going live. Every other platform has so much more tools in aiding you in discoverability and getting people to see your live than on Instagram. So, for one, when you schedule out your live stream on platforms like Facebook, platforms like YouTube, platforms like LinkedIn, for one, these things have their own sections that people can see that, hey, this person is going live, right? So these platforms are going to be pushing your scheduled live streaming because live video gets the biggest push of any form of content on any social media platform. Every platform focuses on pushing live video content because it commands a live audience. People have to come and be on that platform to watch it, and that's what that's what each of these platforms want. So when you look on LinkedIn, there's a section that says, hey, these events are coming up, right? And that's big and bold. They have a whole section showing you all upcoming events, which you could then schedule. You can schedule into your calendar or set up notifications. That way you are notified when these events are happening. YouTube does the same thing. YouTube lets you know, hey, this person has scheduled an event, and you could then, set up the notification so that when an hour in advance of the event, it's going to remind you that you have an upcoming live stream to watch. Then 15 minutes before the event, and then also as you guys go live, a notification gets sent out as well. And Facebook does the same thing too. Facebook lets you know that you can set up a notification so that you do not miss someone's live stream. So when you are using platforms that allow you to schedule your live stream in advance, you get the big push from the algorithms. They're going to be pushing that out to people in your community, but then most importantly, people outside of your community. And then once they see it, they have the option of setting up the notification or letting know that they're going to be attending. So you have an idea as to what type of audience to expect on that day. But then rest assured that the platforms themselves are pushing it out to more people that are not in your community, and then people can set up the notifications to be notified on that day that you are going live, and that is all done to attract a bigger live audience. So again, that is a great live video is a great way to help build your discoverability, because the platforms themselves that allow you to schedule your live streams in advance are giving you guys that push through the platform and the algorithms. So if you are somebody that is doing, if you guys are live streaming, right? Many of you guys are already live streaming on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Make sure that you guys are scheduling these things in advance so that you guys can take advantage of the platform's push to get you more of a live audience. If you are only doing lives on Instagram, well, they don't have the same setup. And I mean, you guys can post to the Instagram stories and set up the countdown timer, but it's just not the same thing that we're talking about with any other of these platforms. It's totally different. Instagram doesn't do anything remotely close to what I'm talking about with respects to the other platforms and how they manage the push and having their own dedicated sections to say, hey, these lives are coming up, and allowing people to set up the notifications and whatnot. Instagram is completely different. So again, if you're doing it on those other platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, I think even Twitter as well, make sure you guys are scheduling in advance to take advantage of what the platform is doing for live streaming. Number 6, create ebooks and add them to Amazon. create ebooks, and get them added to Amazon. Somebody's probably saying, well, why? Why don't I just sell them on my own website? Well, yes, you can sell your ebooks on your own website, but Amazon does something that is incredible for discoverability purposes. When you create your ebooks, right, and you get them added to Amazon, who cares about selling them, right? Who cares about selling them? You do. If you sell on Amazon, great, but I mean, ideally, Amazon takes a percentage of it. You would prefer to sell it through your own platforms. That way you get all of your money. However, the main reason you want to get your ebooks published to Amazon, even if it's short ebooks and you put it down to the smallest price, the focus isn't on selling your ebooks on Amazon. Amazon grants you the coveted Amazon author page. So once you create your ebooks and you open up an Amazon author page, Amazon author pages outrank every other social media platform on Google search. So if I were to Google anybody's name, if you have an Amazon author page, it's going to outrank LinkedIn. It's going to outrank Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It outranks all of those things. And it's also the most versatile real estate that you can get outside of your own platform. Because when you take out an Amazon author page, you can also set up, so you put your bio and stuff like that. You could put images. Obviously, you're going to have, the ebooks that you've created so people have the option of purchasing it. But one of the major advantages to having that Amazon author page is that you can connect an RSS feed from your website to your Amazon author page, and then Amazon will pull all of your blog posts from your website and slap it onto Amazon. Once you set up the RSS feed to your Amazon author page from your website, Amazon can pull all of your posts from your website. Whether it's a blog post, an audio post, a video post that you've embedded on your website, Amazon is pulling all of your posts from your website and putting it onto the Amazon author page. And then, again, people can, when they Google your name and they see the Amazon author page, they check it out. People can also now see content that you are putting out and have a direct link to go back to your website. That's huge, right? And in the game of traffic, in the game of being discoverable, any way that we can get more of our content out there and create more sources for people to be able, or create more channels for people to find our content. And then on top of that, it's on Amazon, and Amazon outranks every other social media platform. People can go, and then once they see, okay, this is the person, this is their bio, oh, they have some ebooks, great, oh, they have a website, oh, this is their content. It's just another way for your content to be found. And in the game of discoverability, this is gold. The more breadcrumbs you put out there into the interwebs means it's the more opportunities for people to find your platforms, come back to you, and the more traffic you get equals the more opportunities, and the more opportunities equals more chances to gain revenue for your brand or business. Hope that one makes sense for some of y'all. I hope some of y'all that have your websites put together some ebooks, and again, just put together some ebooks, collect some of your information, some of your top blog posts, put it together, and get it on Amazon, and go get that Amazon author page. Last but certainly not least, the seventh tip to help build your discoverability is to guest blog / guest write for established platforms. So you want to look and find out, who are the top websites in your space? Is it a news website? Is there a popular blogger or a popular company that has a blog website within your niche? Whoever is an established platform in your respective space, reach out to them and do some guest writing or guest blogging. And dare I say, do it for free. Because if you can get your name on more established platforms, you will get the coveted backlink. So people, these established platforms will be linking back to your website. And also when people are Googling a particular story online or a particular question, and you have written content on more established platforms that rank higher than your platform probably on Google, and people can see that story or that article or question you dove into on a more established platform. For one, when people read it, they're going to be able to see your name. They're also going to be able to click on a link to go back to your platforms. So guest writing, guest blogging on more established platforms is super, super major in terms of getting your name out there and building your discoverability and building your credibility. Because if we can see that you are writing, right? First of all, nobody even cares to know whether you got paid or not. They just want to get the information that you have put out there. And once they can see that you have written for an established newspaper or an influencer or just an established platform, when they can see your name associated with that, you also get credibility, right? That will allow you to, obviously, you're going to get more notoriety. You're going to be able to probably charge a bit more because, again, you're going to be viewed as an expert in your space. But then also people are going to be able to click on the links on that article and come and check out your platform. Because anytime you're guest writing or guest blogging, people are going to give you that opportunity to link back to your website, right? And once they click on your website and they come back again, that person could subscribe to your email newsletter or subscribe to your notification list or your text messaging list or your WhatsApp number list, whatever you have set up. But again, guest writing, guest blogging on more established platforms is a major key to discoverability and building your credibility and having people find you on the interwebs. So folks, I hope those 7 tips to help build your discoverability come in handy. I hope at least one of those ways are something that you guys can put into practice within your own business, within your brand. Again, here in the Caribbean, we are so accustomed to how to get foot traffic to our brick and mortar stores. We know all the ways, the little tricks to get people coming into our stores. But we have really struggled when it comes to getting traffic to our online platforms. And because we struggle to get traffic to our online platforms, this is why some people are still experiencing low sales because, well, there's just nobody coming to them. They're not being found. They're not. People are not coming to them. All right. And if you cannot get traffic to your website, well, the first thought is going to be, well, online doesn't work. And even though we've switched online, we're still not getting the type of money that we should. And it's really because you don't understand how digital works. And if you don't understand how digital works, if you do not understand, for one, how your business can become discoverable, if you don't know how to be found online, then if people cannot find you, they cannot do business with you. And what happens is, right now, since sales starts with a Google search, whoever can show up with the solution, the product, or the service to my platform when we do a Google search is typically the people we call. It's the people that we schedule an appointment with. It's the people we click on the product or we add to cart and purchase, or we book the consultation or book the session with. If your business cannot be found, people cannot do business with you. And I'm repeating it, since sales starts with a Google search, the people who are showing up at the right time of that search with the right product, the right service, the right solution, those are the people we are doing business with. So if your business cannot be found, but your competitors are being found, and you might feel like your brand is bigger, better, or you guys just offer a better experience overall, if you cannot be found, but your competitor is found, people will call your competitors and do business with your competitors, and you will continue to lose out on sales, especially because we are still in this pandemic. We still need to reduce contact. We still need to keep people off the roads and not gather into public, not gather in public spaces. I read an article the other day right here in Trinidad where, businesses have finally opened back up, but they're saying foot traffic is not there. Well, of course not. It's not going to be there. And God only knows when it will ever, if ever, get back to being there. But you cannot wait for when the pandemic is over, whenever that is, nobody can tell you. However, consumer behaviors have changed. Consumers are online. So we're not trying to go in person to stores. So rather than cry about foot traffic and who's not coming into your stores, you need to begin understanding the digital space so that your business can be found online. You are offering payments online, and you are offering You're offering a service delivery so that people can receive your products all through online channels. And if you do that, you can recoup, maybe even double what you guys were making before. And on top of that, you're going to have less overheads than with your physical store. All right. So that is it from me on this episode, the 7 tips to help you build your discoverability. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate the episode on your favorite podcast platforms. Please, 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 if you can, do me a favor, drop a review. The reviews help grow the podcast. So if you really want to support the Digipreneur FM podcast and grow the community, please drop a review. Let people know how you guys have been enjoying the program thus far. That is it from me, folks. Take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Karan Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Karan Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.